Good. How are you?
Uh, Not so bad, not so bad. Let me share a screen. So I took your advice. I got a recording of a league I played, so it'll be easier to go over.
Great.
Um, I don't know if the quality is any good on your end, but if it's not, then I suppose I could just go ahead and it's also on YouTube, so I could also just shoot you the link if it's easy to go through it on your end
No,
like that.
this is fine.
Okay.
I don't need to be able to read Stoneforge Mystic. I'm on it.
Yeah, okay. I guess you know what that does.
Yep, I
Um,
can see the pictures. We're good.
All right. So I got five matches. It was two Delvers, two Scams, and I think some kind of Moon Stompy. Um, I definitely want to go over at least one of the Delver matches, and we can go over a Scam one or two. How long does it take to go over a matchup in your experience, just so I can time this out in my head?
Uh, Depends on how long the games go and how much we find to talk about. So
Okay.
it's unlikely that one match will take the full 2 hours, but we might not get three. Like probably somewhere in the 2 to 3 range.
Okay. All right. Well, this Delver one was definitely, I think, one that I would probably want some feedback on. I know I made mistakes looking back at it, but I'd also be
Okay,
curious where you are. So here, I'll just start.
cool. And I have recorded your league. It's actually coming out tomorrow.
Oh,
So
perfect.
unfortunately, it wasn't a day earlier, so we could, you know,
No, it's
debrief
okay.
live, but all good.
All right. Oh, so there's the opener. Oh, I thought I might have mulligan. Never mind. So just tell me when you want me to slow down or anything.
Yeah, let's talk about the opening hand.
Sure.
What do you like and dislike about this?
I don't like that I have Cauldra. Don't love that I have Plains. Mountain is kind of neither here nor there, but I do have Ponder to help unlock it, which is kind of like where I believe I want. I probably just did Island Ponder for a white source.
Real quick, do you have your deck list? Because I played Esper Stoneblade for you, which is what you sent me, and I see a mountain in this deck.
Yeah. Oh,
So,
that was someone else from our Discord. They wanted to play that. I'm still on Jeskai. You know,
okay.
I edited it.
Yeah, I just want to be able to see the list we're
Yeah,
playing
sure.
so we can make informed conversations.
Let me shoot you this. All right, there. There's your link. It's pretty standard. Well, I don't know what
Hold on,
standard is for Stoneblade anymore,
that
but
link didn't correctly. Let me
it
see.
didn't go.
It's taking me to my own deck folder when I open
Oh, wait
this.
a minute. No, I sent you the folder where it's at.
Okay.
Okay. No, that would be my mistake. Okay, there you go. That's it.
Okay. Now I have the deck. Cool. All right. We got March's Otherworldly Light. Have I played this for you in the past? Like
So
two
some variant
submissions
of
ago?
it, yeah. I'm always like
Okay.
tinkering around with one or two cards, but you've played like
Gotcha.
the core of this before.
Okay. Sure. Okay. Great. I have the list now. Cool. So, uh, sorry, you were reviewing the hand and I got distracted by this mountain.
Yeah,
So, what do
sure.
you like about this hand?
Like two basics, a cantrip, removal, Snapcaster, and Stoneforge. Don't like Cauldra. Don't necessarily love Mountain. But I kept it, I'm pretty sure, on the premise that I'm just going to Island Ponder into White Source and kind of go from there.
Right. Yeah. Okay. I completely agree with the whole assessment. This mountain is basically a colorless pip. In the
Yeah,
main deck, you have prismatic ending, and that's the only thing that cares about that. Otherwise, it's colorless.
yeah,
But you do have a bunch of colorless costs in the deck. Like other than Ponder, Plow, Spell Pierce, most things do have one in their cost, so
yeah,
it's not that bad. But yeah, this is an Island Ponder key situation, and if we find planes, we're just cooking here.
yeah. All right. Tell me whenever you want me to pause.
Okay. If you cast this Ponder, pause when we're looking at the cards. I'm going to want to
All
talk
right.
about that.
All right. Yeah.
All right. Tell me what you're thinking.
This is pretty much the dream. I got a White Source, another basic, and removal if I need it. I don't remember the order I put it in, and I wish MTGO went slower, but I'm pretty sure I just put Island on bottom, Ending in the middle, and then Vista on top. Is I think the order. I don't know
Yep.
what I'm against, but yeah,
Right. Okay. So you mentioned you don't know what you're against yet.
yeah.
What are the cons of this setup that you've got here.
I hope you're not combo. Pretty much.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So I agree with that whole assessment. We found the basic planes perfect, found a backup removal spell, but if they are anything in the combo space, we're in trouble. We're not even good against control, really,
Yeah.
if they can answer the Stoneforge. So we kind of have to hope they're a creature deck with
Yeah.
this setup, but we are very well set up if this is exactly Delver or Scam.
Yeah. All right, continue.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I did what I thought I did.
Yep, that's what I would have done also.
Oh, hey, lucky me.
Yep, very lucky.
Yeah.
Very happy to see all that.
Pretty sure I'm just gonna ending.
Yep, I like that.
Pretty sure I just jammed Stoneforge here. I got Cryptic Coat to see if I could bait out, see if I could convince them to let Stoneforge live.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite things about Stoneforge decks is when you just naturally have Cauldra. That sucks at first, but
Yeah. Well, I mean,
sure. But like even having it, they might not necessarily use it if you get Cryptic Coat.
Yeah.
And
So I feel like, oh yeah, go
we're
ahead.
hurting. So this is actually interesting.
I'll try and rewind it a
Why
little bit.
did you ponder into the Bowmaster when we did have Plow? Like, what are the pros and cons here to that sequencing?
I guess what I was worried about, maybe overly worried, I figure I'm still at a high life total. I'm mostly worried about a eventual Murktide, because that seems to be the thing that ganks me most of the time, and I don't know if I want to be spending a plow on a Bowmaster, although in retrospect, I think that probably was the right thing to do.
Yeah, so I agree. I like that you're thinking about, turn 7, turn 8 already here on turn 4, because usually, and that's how Delver's constructed. You have these 1-for-1 back and forths, and then they play a Murktide. But you have Snapcaster Mage in your hand, so you have another Plow, and they are at least one more card in their graveyard away from even casting Murktide.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you said your life total's high, and it is, but it gets smaller much faster if they have a 2/2 instead of a 1/1.
I think watching this one back, that kind of snuck up on me how quickly it ended up mattering. I can't
Right.
remember if it's this game or not, but it did come down. One of the games did come down to a life point where it's like, well, that was it right there.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
frequently do. Like Delver is so sneaky because like 6 is significantly lower than 7, and then 3 is significantly lower than 4. All those multiples of Lightning Bolt become very serious.
Yeah.
And yeah, just taking a point here when we don't really have to. Like your deck can play through Bowmaster. You're not like a Bean deck or a Staff of the Storyteller deck that really can't function under Bowmaster successfully. But like if we ponder here and find something that plays through Bowmaster, what are we looking for? Like Stoneforge Mystic,
I don't
which
know.
is now
I guess I
open
was
to
hoping
Daze.
for like a prismatic ending or a smaller removal spell to deal with Bowmasters, but in retrospect, it's hard to argue that I shouldn't have just plowed it.
Yeah. I think that with Snapcaster Mage, you have a second plow ready to go. And even without Snapcaster Mage, I don't like just pondering into a Bowmaster this early because that life total is going to disappear quickly.
Yeah. And then looking back, another thing that I wish I'd done, I wanted another land, and I ended up keeping this as Narset, Tundra on top.
Right.
I think my thought was this: I need to deploy the Snapcaster Mage, and it's hard to deploy it right now. A shuffle might get me a land, it might not. But in retrospect, I think I should have taken the shuffle because I locked myself into a double Narset draw,
Right.
which
So
is really not what you want.
yeah, Narset's kind of medium here, but you have a couple options. One of them is just take the Tundra now and cast Cryptic Coat, which might sniff out a Daze. It does expose you to Wasteland, But if Cryptic Coat resolves, now you have a thing in play and one of the Narsets is cleared, and it helps you work through the Ponder where we do actually want land. You could also just snap Plow, or what is that white card? That's ending.
Yeah.
You could snap ending and clear the 2/2 Orc army just to spend your mana, and you don't really mind if Prismatic Ending gets dazed here because Snapcaster's still in play. Or you could just plow the Bowmaster. There's a bunch of things to do here. If you want to play around the most things, I think the line is, and it doesn't matter what you leave on top because you're not playing Tundra this turn. You can put it in your hand or not. But just don't play a land this turn. Keep the Ponder, plow the Bowmaster, and then on the next turn you can make your land drop and play Narset or Cryptic Coat through days or snap removal through days. So I don't like shuffling because this does give us the ability to cast the cards in our hand. But there's a couple different ways to maximize either your mana or your minimize your exposure to their cards like Days and Wasteland.
Yeah.
But all of this, like, you're just under more pressure because we didn't lead on Plow.
Yeah.
And I know we agree that that seems right. I'm not trying to beat a dead horse, but like the pressure is, you went from what would have been a, what is your life total right now? Your mouse is over.
It's probably
is
like
that
16.
18?
I can't move it. That's from the recording.
Okay. All right. So after the Bowmaster ping, so you were probably at like 17.
Yeah.
Or maybe you fetched and Bowmaster and they attacked. So that might be 16.
Yeah.
Like whatever it is, you went from a 16 or 17 turn clock to a 6 turn clock by pondering first.
Yeah.
Even just basic, how long is this game going to last math, just completely flipped on its head.
Okay.
Just from that one extra ping.
Yeah. Okay. I think I ended up putting Tundra on top and trying to cast Coat, if memory serves. The thought was probably if he has the days, then I'll just take it out, and then if he doesn't, then it's just, it'll just sit there and gum up the board, basically. Try and protect a Narset.
Right. Like, Days here isn't too bad. Days plus Wasteland is really bad.
Yeah.
Even no Days, yes, Wasteland is also really bad because that
you
locks
can't
out
cast the Narsets.
all of these 3 Narsets.
Yeah. All right, let's see what I did. So I kept it. Gets his ping. Okay, well, I did the worst of everything then. I thought I went for the Coat there.
Okay, so you haven't played into Days, so it's not the worst of everything.
Yeah.
This is a really rough play into Wasteland, though.
I think I went for the... I don't know if going for the dude there was right or not. I think my thought was, I'm just going to play Narset and make him spend removal on it if you don't want me to get 2 draws.
Yeah, I mean, you're not drawing any cards, and you know the top 2 cards of your deck don't draw any cards either. And you can answer the Bowmaster eventually.
Okay.
Yeah, I think given where we are, that's probably right, because it does make Narset more durable.
All right. So then I think I went for the Coat to try and like bait something out, is my memory, but...
So here the question is, what's actually more important? Because we have to assume that Delver, who has a handful of cards and didn't make a play last turn, can interact with something you do here.
Yeah.
So do we want to flush out removal on the redundant Narset? Do we want to take the risk? Because I would actually rather resolve Cryptic Coat on this board than Narset.
I think
and
I
have
agree
a blocker.
In retrospect. Yeah, I guess I valued Narset more just because, I don't know, in general, I think it is more valuable, but at least in this case, yeah.
Right. Well, the trick is we have 3 Narsets, and if they Wasteland us, we will have 0 Narsets. So I kind of like using Narset here as a force tester, because getting 2 cards out of their hand with one of our 3 Narsets, we're never going to get through all of them in a game anyway. And I'm really worried about Wasteland just knocking us off the ability to cast any of them.
Yeah.
And they did pitch Days to force, so nice job not playing into that. But I think Narset would have been my play this turn.
I think you're right, because now I'm about to draw the third one, and yeah, I guess I would have had to
Right.
draw it either way, but yeah,
Well, if Narset resolves, you can clear the third one with a minus.
yeah.
So that's like huge upside.
So here I think I'm pretty much priced into snap, plowing, and blocking the Bowmaster.
Yeah, I think stabilizing the board is the best thing we could do here. Ooh, the hard cast force.
Yeah, when he had that, that was kind of it. I'm pretty sure. I think I just packed it up at this point. I don't think there's.
So you could have played around that by snap plowing in the upkeep. That doesn't ambush the Bowmaster in combat, but it does guarantee that Force of Will is going to cost 2 cards.
Yeah.
And
I
here
guess
we
I
are
wanted
in
to go
that
for
dead to
both.
bolt situation.
Yeah. And here I think is the situation. No, never mind. That's not it. No, I think this is the game where the one life does cost me at the end of it. So I
I
kind
could
of
see
feel like
that
I have to force
materializing.
this, huh?
Yeah, I think you have to force that too. I could definitely see the 1 life point materializing here.
Yeah. Because now I need the. What'd I do? Yeah, I went for another Narset. Swords plus.
So we're very dead to bolt, but we don't mind most other things. Oh, nope, never mind.
I think I plow the Bowmaster. There, I think my mistake was not plowing the Bowmaster. Just trying to use my
Yeah,
white mana efficiently. Because, yeah, here's where it matters, I think. Then I want to go to Brainstorm, and I find a Stoneforge, but I can't cast it now.
right. Yeah, like by not plowing there, like you play Supreme Verdict, but you can't fetch for another white,
Yeah,
and Narset can't come up with white mana plus Supreme Verdict. So the thing you were trying to maximize for isn't actually there as an out or a draw.
yeah,
And yeah, if we're just at 2, and if you had plowed earlier, you would actually be at 3 right now because the Bowmaster wouldn't have pinged you and the 2/2 wouldn't have gotten through in combat.
yeah,
So you would be at 3 right now instead of 1, where you could fetch. And if you just plowed in the end step, clear the Bowmaster, you would have a blocker for the 1/1.
yeah.
And then Batterskull coming down next turn. So this is actually.
Despite the mistakes, this was
Yeah,
almost winnable. I mean, I don't know what the
it
last
was.
couple cards in his hand were, but yeah.
Yeah, like this
Force
game
Wolves
was
Pancreas.
entirely winnable. Like if we're just at 3 instead of 1 here, Force of Will's online for the Lightning Bolt if they ever draw it, and everything else is under control. If we connect with Batterskull once, we can't really lose this game.
Yeah, Teferi can bounce any regents that he plays, and yeah. I
Yep.
If I had one more white and like one more life, I think I could have this one, but yeah.
Yeah, like if we assume your opponent just bricks forever, even given everything that got to this point, the end step plow, untap, cast Stoneforge beats everything except Lightning Bolt still. I guess a second Bowmaster. Everything except direct damage. You
Yeah.
could still win this from 1 life over the next 2 turn cycles.
Yeah. So quite a few mistakes there. I think the first one was the ponder, and then I made one or two more in an attempt to really not try to win this one.
Right. Yeah. So just I would say that like the ponder and plow sequencing is the first big error. And then once we're here, not using your white mana when you had it to clear the Bowmaster is another big one. So
Yeah.
we're 2 mistakes, 2 big mistakes that changed the course of the game. And I think if either one wasn't made, we probably win this game. So it's actually really tight despite all that. But those are the little things that happen that are the difference between winning and losing a game.
Yep. All right. So after this, I think is sideboard. So we might as well look at my sideboard then. I'm just like clicking through all this stuff. Um, okay, so for sideboard, I guess we can talk about what I remember doing. Whoopsie. Yeah, sideboard's probably important to go over, I guess.
Yes, for sure.
I wish MTGO would show you what I did, make my life easier. I brought in a Pyroblast, a Red Blast, both Blue Blasts, a Verdict, and a Hearse, and both Hearses. So that's 2, 4, 5, 7 cards.
Yep.
Okay, I removed the Dress Downs. I don't think they do much. I removed the Forces, and looking at this, I probably went down 1 Narset.
Yep. I think that is exactly how I would do this as well.
Okay. So first, oh, geez, that the shuffle thing goes so fast. Okay, so this hand, I ended up mulliganing it. I don't know if that was good or not. Looking at this, I like the Supreme Verdict. Narset, I'm whatever on. Batterskull's mostly a brick. Stoneforge is fine. The mana's fine. What worries me is A, no cantrips, and B, I really am not doing anything for like the first 2, 3 turns. At least the way this just is. I could draw something, but I don't even have control over that without a cantrip.
Right. I actually would keep this hand. And the things you said about it are true, but I really like having 3 lands, and 2 of them are basics. We could just get that base set up under us right away.
Yeah.
You have the option here to turn 3 Stoneforge around days, or just turn 3 Narset to try to flush out counter magic. And you're playing 20 lands, so there's 17 more lands in the deck, and 8 cantrips. So that's 25 good draws that could help you get to land number 4. And I think if you just let Delver commit into a Supreme Verdict, that's one of the best ways to flip the game on them. It doesn't end the game, but if they come out blazing and you walk them into it, that is a huge way to get a big advantage.
Yeah.
I think on the draw, I'm a little more worried about this hand, but on the play where you get to go first and Days meaningfully sets them back and stuff, I would actually keep this.
Okay. All right. I guess I felt without action and on a virtual mulligan to 6, I thought this one was kind of sketchy.
So you do have action though. You have Stoneforge, Narset, and Supreme Verdict.
Yeah.
Generally, when I keep like a lands and ponder hand, I'm looking for things like Stoneforge, Narset, and Supreme Verdict, or my next land drop.
Yeah.
And your hand just doesn't need ponder because you already have 3 lands and stuff to do.
Okay. My general.
The Batterskull stinks, but if this Stoneforge sticks, like you get to do the whack-a-mole thing where you get Coat and then drop in Batterskull at 5 mana, like Supreme Verdict follow up Batterskull on turns 4 and 5. That's a game plan.
Okay. I guess I just saw this and thought this is exactly the kind of hand Delver gets under. Maybe I get to Verdict, maybe I don't, but yeah. Okay. I think I ended up keeping this one. Yeah, I put that back to basics. I think the plan was kind of just, now I have something early. I can plow whatever their first threat is and then build into a Verdict later. I should brainstorm on this turn. I do. Do you have thoughts about that, or?
I like these basics. I like keeping the removal to very strong. Yeah, I like what everything that's just happened.
All right. I'm kind of just brainstorming while I can. It feels like the heuristic happens flipped.
Yeah, getting that through under Bowmaster is fine. You get to do everything you want to do under Days anyway.
Can't remember what I did here.
Yep, good fetch first. And they did have the Days, so the Wasteland would have got you if you didn't fetch first.
So here I'm kind of hoping that I'm trying to build a Verdict that's more than a 1-for-1.
Yeah.
And I get one. Pretty sure I just happily slam verdict here.
Yep, for sure. Oh, interesting.
Did I not? Okay.
Okay, yeah. So I disagree with that. Like, there's 5 damage on board. You can't reasonably cast this brainstorm. This is a spot where you just take the pressure off
Yeah.
and then start rebuilding with your cantrip next turn.
Okay.
Like this hit down to 9 is now triple bolt range, and 3 is a lot of bolts. But this game's going to go a long time because you don't have any way to turn around and take over.
Oh, shoot. What the heck? Ah. God. I meant to hit the space bar. I did not. Where'd it go? All
We're
right.
almost there.
We were basically here.
Yeah. So this is the Bowmaster, and so like the plan here, if Stoneforge Mystic resolves, you're going to have to just Supreme Verdict it away next turn. Like this sequence, even if it works, doesn't really work out for you.
Yeah.
Like all I want to do with this deck is get a stable empty board and stick Stoneforge on it. And this is 5 damage we didn't need to take, and our threat's gone.
I think I probably just brainstorm here. Yeah. Okay. Now I'm like, now I was kind of dreading exactly this, which is, yeah, it's always the last regent that gets you.
Right. And because you took 5,
Yeah.
instead of being at 14 and being able to absorb this hit and having resolved a Stoneforge last turn to contest, we just are going to die.
Yeah.
Yeah, like 8 is an important number. Like I mentioned, 3 and 6 being important thresholds against Delver. 8 is also a really important threshold because that's 1 Murktide hit, which also means 11 is an important threshold because that's Murktide plus Bolt. If I can have an empty board at 14 life with gas still in hand, I'm taking that every time.
Yeah. Okay. So really, I just needed to verdict there.
Yeah.
Yeah, looking back, I don't know why I did the Stoneforge first. I was kind of hoping he would read it as weakness and try to commit and just plow more onto the board, but that was probably a bit greedy.
Yeah, well, the trick there is that you are weak. Like you can't bluff weakness if you are actually weak.
Yeah.
And what you're weak to is just Stoneforge getting answered and them clapping for 5 and putting you to dead to their next threat.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. Okay, I think this next one is probably scam, if I remember right. Let's see. So this one I keep. It's in the dark, I don't know, but I have lands, Force, Brainstorm,
Yep.
a plan to go late. I have some removal. About the only thing I don't like is that Meticulous Archive comes into play tapped and can be wastelanded, but it can find me my next land maybe, and I guess if they wasteland me, then I guess we're both just kind of in hell on one land for a while.
Yeah. The archive is fine. Like honestly, I might even like archive more than just island in the sand. Because you get that look. You're not going to brainstorm on turn 1 anyway.
Okay.
Yeah, it's fine. Like I agree, it's worth being aware of. Like if they're a wasteland deck, this might hurt, which affects how you surveil. Like if you surveil into a blue source, you're basically just priced into keeping it no matter what.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing that I don't like about these archive lands on turn one is like I don't even know what card would flip that I wouldn't like keep on top. Like maybe a force because I already have one in hand, but like it feels like the value of these archive lands when you're in the dark on turn one is pretty minimal.
I mean, like you don't need force of will. You don't need another Narset. That's immediately 7 things that you
Yeah.
could
Okay.
filter through.
Yeah.
Back to basics. You wouldn't keep here. There's hits here that you'd be happy to get rid of.
Okay. Oh, he's on the play. All right, so I see Underground Sea. Yeah, it's probably just fine on top.
Yep.
Troll, so the gig's up. It's probably Scam or Reanimator of some kind at this point.
Yep.
Ponder for my next lands. There they are.
Yeah, not getting dazed there is a good sign.
Yeah, I was kind of like clenching, hoping I didn't get dazed. But I mean, if he did, I don't know. I still have another cantrip, so I was okay with it.
Yep. And these wasteland exchanges, when they're not pressuring, just don't even matter.
Yeah. I kind of wanted to bait out a daze here so I could turn to a Stone Forge with impunity, and yeah. So he bid on the second daze too, I think, or was that the
That was
first?
insanely greedy by your opponent. I don't agree with that play at all. Like, they must think you're really just screwed over there if
I
they're
mean,
willing
he's
to put themselves
wasteland.
to 0 permanence.
Yeah, I mean, he's wastelanded me twice, so I guess he's thinking he kind of wants to strand me on one island.
And I know what they're thinking. I just think it's wrong.
Okay.
Like, your opponent is a deck that has, like, Ponder into Reanimate as 2-mana plays, Orcish Bowmaster as a 2-mana play, even just like draw land, hardcast days on your real spell next turn. Like, they are trying to cheese you out here in a way that I don't think is correct. And just picking up days going down to 0 permanence to days of brainstorm that you couldn't shuffle anyway. I don't. I just think that play is really greedy, and I hope that they get punished for it right now when you resolve a Stoneforge Mystic.
He brainstorms again.
Right, and they brainstormed into that day's last turn as well. So that's
Oh,
just like spewed off 2 brainstorms now, picked up a land. Now they're behind to this Cauldra.
yeah.
I just think that play was bad.
Oh, yeah. This game was weird. I don't know. He just
Yep. Why
this.
would we want to brazen borrow the Germ token instead
Yeah. I
of
don't
the
know.
Stoneforge Mystic?
Then he like does it again. Like,
Sure.
okay. Yeah, that was
That's
kind of my thought
2
while I was
Germ
playing
tokens
this.
answered so far. And instead we're going to draw 3 cards.
Yeah, at this point, I think, yeah, I'm actually just out of equipment now, so
Yeah, the next borrower is going to get you.
yeah, watch out.
Yeah.
Then at this point, when he can't deal with it, I feel like I'm pretty much on easy street here. I don't want to say it's over, but unless they have an insane reanimator string off 3 cards, I don't know how this
Yeah, I
goes.
mean, this is how it starts, though,
Yeah,
that Entomb attracts I think they would have cast an animate if they had
if
one
they
like
had it,
100
yeah.
turns ago.
Now I'm almost just going to attack, and now I have Pierce Snap Pierce up, which could be enough, might not be, depending on what they do.
Yeah, that still doesn't beat Reanimate.
Yeah.
It does beat Animate Dead. March also beats Animate Dead.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so here, like, that game, I think your opponent threw it really hard. Like, bouncing a thing with an ETB card advantage ability twice when you could just bounce the Germ token that comes out of it and be under 0 pressure instead. I think that is, they were just kind of like scam brain. Like, I'm going to take every short term, mildly disruptive line I possibly can because that's what my deck does. And that's just not how you can think about Magic. And if they had just slowed down, bounced Cauldra, played the 3-1, and then had the other 3-1 back in case you can loop your Cauldra or find Batterskull somehow, I think they would have won that game.
Yeah. They gave me wait, yeah. I guess I hadn't seen it from that point of view. Okay.
Right,
I
firing
kind
off
of
the
felt a
2 brainstorms
little,
also. The 2
yeah.
no shuffle brainstorms, one of them picked up their only land to counter your brainstorm. It was just really greedy.
I thought I felt mildly clever when I offered the first brainstorm as days bait and they took it, but yeah, they probably shouldn't have done it, and I guess in retrospect.
Like, so that was a really weird thing because I don't think that actually is days bait against most players. And the fact that your opponent not only dazed it, but was willing to brainstorm to dig for days to then decide to fight over it they just gave you a giant resource exchange in a spot where they didn't really need to.
Yeah. I don't know. I
I
guess
mean,
I just
yeah,
I said here I'll let you make a mistake, and I guess they did. Whether that makes me a good player, whether that makes them a bad player, I don't know. But
yeah. Like I think brainstorming there is a reasonable decision because they're about to untap and represent Orcish Bowmaster, which is a huge problem in that spot. Like I think you brainstormed at the correct time. I think it was for the wrong reason that somehow your opponent was on the same wavelength for,
okay,
and
yeah,
you got rewarded.
okay, fair enough. Then I think there was a game too. Oh yeah, the sideboard thing. I don't know. Scam I kind of struggle with. Um, so what I do, I bring in two hearses, two extractions, and I think that's probably it. I think I bring in both blasts just because I see Murktide. I don't necessarily love Verdict in this matchup. It's kind of slow and it just puts things back in the graveyard where, you know, to no one's surprise, they kind of want them anyway.
Right.
So what is that? That's like 6 cards. March feels pretty bad here. So that's one. Verdict is two. I don't like back to basics here. It's too slow. That's three. Deck's a little fast to be hanging around on 4 Narsets. I think I cut two of those. How many is that now? One, two, three, four. I need two more. What else did I cut? I think I cut an ending and a. I think I cut both endings too. Or maybe it was a Teferi, but I think it was endings. Because I guess I see the converted. Scam puts me in a weird spot because they have a good card at two, but also if they just grief reanimate grief and I'm stuck with like this prismatic ending in hand, you just feel like the biggest fool in the world. Um,
Yep.
and then I also struggle. I sometimes it just feels like Rihanna sideboarding against grief is like you almost don't want to draw the sideboard cards until you can cast them. Just because of the way that card works, especially on turn zero or turn one. Like surgical in your hand is like it's nice, but unless you're willing to force the first grief, like it's probably just getting taken and then they're reanimating and now you're kind of stuck in this weird loop. Hearse is kind of bad. I don't know. I just
Okay.
I find it hard to sideboard against a deck that London mulligans you to five, except you get the five worst.
Right. So you just described a play pattern that informs my sideboard plan here without realizing that it should apply to your sideboard plan.
Okay.
And the thing that you said about surgical extraction, like if they grief you, it just doesn't matter. What are we trying to force of will in this matchup if that's true?
I mean, they still have the force. They still have the reanimate Atraxa line. I mean, which I still have to respect. I've definitely still been gotten by that more than a few times. They're like this weird. They still have the reanimator backend, which I guess is what makes me want to include force. But if you
Right.
found
But
another way,
if you're not getting checked with grief, like if they have grief, it doesn't matter what you have. If you're not getting griefed, then surgical is better than force. Spell Pierce is better than force. Those cards are better than force if you're not griefed, and if you are griefed, it doesn't matter. That's where I'm at with that. And if if you ever have to spend two cards on one of theirs that isn't a reanimated Atraxa, that is like you talked about the forced mulligan to five where they grief you. Like talk about like forcing Orcish Bowmaster after boarding out three white removal spells that could have dealt with Orcish Bowmaster one for one. Like I think that force of will is bad here, and all of
oh
that assumes they're still reanimating. Where if they do pivot onto just the Dothy Voidwalker beats, force of will is horrendous.
yeah. So if it were you, then you're bringing in red blast, two hearses, two surgicals. I'm assuming.
Yes, and I would cut four force, one Narset, one back to basics for those six cards.
Interesting. Okay. I guess I hadn't considered force. I'll probably have to listen back to this after we hang up to soak it all in, but okay.
Right. Like just the trick. The really important thing here is yes, you can imagine a world where they just entomb Atraxa and reanimate it. But in order for that to matter, they would have to entomb Atraxa in a completely unprotected way at the point where you have Force Blue card in your hand. So any grief, any thoughtseize, any daze, any force, anything that they have of their own to push it through is just going to beat you, and you spent 2 cards fighting it. Where I am much more interested in trying to go 1-for-1 with a surgical extraction. And if you make it to turn 2, Unlicensed Hearse turns on, you're playing 2 Spell Pierces. This is a great matchup to leverage them. You have 2 Dress Downs, so it's a great matchup to even let them have Atraxa, take its abilities, then kill it some other way. Like, I think you have to accept the risk of getting cheesed because Force of Willing is just such a terrible proposition here.
Yeah. So basically, you have to make sure your starting hand is. I'm reading that as you have to make sure your starting hand is more dense with good stuff, such that their griefs aren't as good, even if they take 2 of your best. Because yeah, grief you again, leave you with like Force of Will and like another blue card and 2 other whatevers. If you force again, you're just kind of screwed.
Right. Like, I
Okay.
basically want to keep 7 as often as possible versus scam.
Okay.
Like, I'm not going to keep a no lander. It's not like a hard and fast rule where just keep 7 no matter what. But I don't want to have to be like, oh, I have force but no blue card. Go to 6. Now I have 6 cards in my hand. If I force something, I have 4 cards in my hand. If I don't force something, grief just takes it anyway. Now I have 5 cards in my hand. It just dwindles away so fast. And your blue cards, now that Back to Basics is out of the deck, and one of the Narsets out of the deck, your blue cards are like Spell Pierce, Brainstorm, Ponder, Teferi, Cryptic Coat, all of which are cards you want to play in the matchup. You don't want to pitch into exile.
Yeah.
Like, I think we just have to settle in, weather the storm, and beat them on some sort of 1-for-1 or creative sideboard basis.
Okay. So in general, against scam, you're pulling out forces. Then that's actually pretty interesting to hear. I hadn't considered that.
Yeah,
Huh.
like just don't be fooled by the reanimation gear because it may or may not be in the deck post board. They may or may not have kept a hand that does it, and they're much more likely to just Thoughtseize or grief you than they are to Entomb Reanimate with no protection.
Yeah, that makes sense because it's a very small grief package after all, or attracts a reanimate package, and they're probably not just going to raw dog it on turn 1. I would assume they're going to do the
Well,
whole grief loop if they can
they
help it.
literally can't turn 1 it though.
Okay.
Is also important. They're not a Dark Ritual deck,
Oh, all
so
right.
you will at least have a chance to untap into Spell Pierce or Swords to Plowshares, and even like plowing Atraxa with the trigger on the stack. If they get 4 or 5 cards out of her, but they don't have a 7/7, their deck has a lot of air in it. If they're not just really crushing with their reanimate monster, and I think you can wade your way through those creatures or cards they get off Atraxa if she's not in play herself.
Okay. All right. Then I guess game 2. Pretty sure I keep this one. Island Ponder. It's good enough for you. But yeah, then Hearse and like 2 plows. So this seems like a pretty easy keep. Um,
Right, and this is exactly the thing I was just saying, where like imagine if this hand, like instead of a plow or instead of hearse, had force in it. Now
yeah.
we're just like ice cold to grief, and this hand, like if they grief scam grief, they probably what do they do? Take both plows, and then you get to Stoneforge and hearse and play the game that way and try to race the grief. Do they take hearse and plow? Then you can plow the grief, and you're not under any pressure.
Yeah. And if a plow were like a
Like
force, for instance, if they just grief and take a ponder, then your force is effectively a dead card anyway.
right, they just took 2 cards out of your hand
Yeah.
basically.
Oh,
Right,
yeah.
and
Okay.
you wouldn't be able to ponder on turn 1 either because you're gonna feel like you need that blue card for force,
Yeah.
and ponder's how you move forward. And even if they do shove Atraxa here, if you plow her with the trigger on the stack, they can go ahead fill their card hand with mediocre cards, and now the 7/7's gone.
Yeah. I guess it's interesting to hear you say that too, because whenever I play Reanimator, I guess I treat it as like once the fat thing comes into play, like used to be Grizzlebrand. They draw 7. It's like the game is pretty much over. Although it sounds like if you plow the attracts at least against Scam, it kind of isn't, which is
Yeah,
interesting to
and
hear.
and you just said something really important. You called it Reanimator, and this is a fundamentally different deck.
Okay.
This is a fair tempo deck. You should really think about it closer to Delver than you do to Reanimator, and respect that they might have some big mid game or even early game refill on a big body, but they also might not because juking off of it is common to do in the sideboard. And even if they do that, it's not like Grizzlebrand drew 21 and they could just Dark Ritual and Tomb Reanimate more things. Like they get to see 10 cards, they keep 3 to 5 of them. And then one of them's a land, you don't care about that. One of them might be another Reanimate, and you just plowed the Atraxa, so she's gone. Like the deck is that half of the deck is really based on synergy and not so much raw cards. While your whole deck, the whole point of your deck is that all your cards are good. And I think you can keep up with them drawing like 3 cards or 4 cards off an Atraxa if she's just gone and you're not under that pressure.
Okay. All right. I guess I would have assumed you had pretty much any deck, 4 to 5 cards, and it's just, oh, I guess I lose. Like, but maybe not.
And it's
here.
bad.
Yeah.
You would prefer that didn't happen, but their deck, like if they take 4 cards off Atraxa, one of them's a land, so let's say 3 spells. Let's say they take a grief off one of them. If they want to grief you right now, that's a card gone. That's 2 cards gone from their hand. So they really have like 1 or 2 cards off this Atraxa at this point. And then what 1 card is left that you could care about out of this deck? Like Orcus Bowmaster. It's like the best thing they can do at that point.
Yeah, maybe like a cantrip or something off an instant or sorcery, but that's not backbreaking.
Right. What are they digging for though? Like Orcus Bowmaster or something? And at that point, we're just unless they come up with a full like reload of Entomb Reanimate and they still have the Archon in, like that's kind of the worst thing that can happen. But you play white removal for that too, and by then your Hearse might be in play if they haven't griefed you along the way, or if they griefed earlier and prioritized a Plow or a Ponder.
Okay.
Like you just have to kind of turtle up and wade through that stuff rather than try to get a good exchange of Force of Will in a matchup like this one.
All right. All right. Yeah. So I keep it. I think we're on the same wavelength. That it's a good hand. And away we go. Kind of wish I didn't draw that, but yeah. I don't even want like Force of Will here.
Right, because you don't have blue cards to support it because you wanted to ponder on turn 1. And you found Dress Down, which I also mentioned as being a cool card against the deck, because now you could dress down something next turn if they strip both plows now.
So I think I played around days here. I don't know. Maybe there's an important decision point. I chose not to jam Stoneforge or Hearse because I read stripping both plows partly as he's probably got a daze that he wants to trade into one of these 2/2 drops. And I don't feel like I'm under any pressure to push my game forward to the point where I'm just going to eat a daze on a 2-drop.
Right. We don't need to expose ourselves to daze here. I don't think the read necessarily indicates daze for a 2-drop, though. I think the read indicates, well, if you plow me, I have nothing.
Yeah, okay.
Which plays into the whole, like, just accept that you got hit with some discard and then kill their creature plan that I was advocating for out of the sideboard.
Because the other thing that I was thinking, like, well, I suppose, like, if you could, I guess I thought he took the 2 plows. I kind of thought he would take the Stoneforge because that effectively kills this Cauldron in my hand, too. Or wait, he didn't know about the Cauldron, did he?
Yeah, the Cauldron was there.
Yeah, so he knew about it. So I was kind of thinking, like, this to me kind of says, to me it kind of said you have some way to answer this, and I thought it was more likely that he could daze it than he has like a Fatal Push somewhere too.
This deck does sideboard some removal, like Dismembers and Fatal Pushes. We've seen him be super aggressive about just brazen borrowing a Stoneforge Mystic. All of those things could be true. Also, just over top of our whole conversation about what this player probably could or should be doing, or like playing ideally versus scam. We have also seen this player just spew off a bunch of resources for bad exchanges, so we kind of have to think about that a little. But in the overall scheme of things here, I think they just kind of have to take Plow because Plow beats their whole deck, like including this Grave. You don't feel like you're under any pressure right now, but
Yeah.
like you are taking 3. Imagine if you were taking 0. That's why they took Plow, and maybe they do Advancers. Playing around Day is still a good idea, but I think just taking the 2 Plows was the heads up, clear decision there.
Okay.
Anyway,
Interesting.
just
All right.
based on how Rescaminator works.
All right. So he just brainstorms. Sure. Whatever. I guess I cut a coat. Huh. All right.
Oh, yeah, interesting. I noticed that wasn't there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and code is exactly the type of thing I'm looking for in this matchup. Just something I can sink 5 mana into in the late game and outgrind my opponent.
Yeah. I felt like once I got over that, I was okay. Now I have Hearse and like 2 equipments I can go to the board with.
Yeah, the Force of Will did work out well there, protecting the Stone Forge, because now Batterskull's going to take over this game.
But yeah, I mean,
Unless they learned how to bounce Germ tokens with Brazen Borrower. But they would have attacked if they had that.
yeah, they only had 1 card, so here I'm just gonna plow into them and make them
Yep,
answer it.
agreed. I like it.
Yeah, they had the Entomb, they put the Atraxos. Now I have to sweat 1 turn of Reanimate, I think. They don't have it, so.
Yep.
I think that was, yeah, so that was that one.
Okay, yeah, so that was a good conversation about sideboarding and overall strategy. Like, the a big thing that I impart on my coaching folks is making sure you understand the concepts of strategy and tactics, which are military terms. Like the strategy is how are we going to win the war or win this battle, and the tactics are the individual actions we take to do that. And I think strategically, you're in the right place in this matchup. Like you are trying to get to the right place, which is they don't have creatures in play, and you resolve a Stoneforge. But I think tactically, using Force of Will to do that will create more opportunities for that to break down than if you just pile up on white removal and 2-for-1s of your own and the graveyard hate.
Okay. All right. I think so. I think one thing you mentioned last time we were coaching, you mentioned like show you a game where you think you played pretty badly. I think that was the first Delver matchup.
Okay.
If this is the matchup I think it was either game 3 or game 4. I think this is one that I thought I played pretty well in at the time.
Okay.
But yeah, with respect to the opener, 3 lands, Force, Ponder, a Verdict in case stuff goes haywire. Coat's not the greatest, it's not the worst, but yeah, I'm not going to mulligan this in the
Yeah,
dark.
this sounds great. One of the great things about both Verdict and Coat is they are cards you're happy to cast and they're blue.
Yeah.
Like it's unlikely they're both. It's unlikely that Force of Will and Supreme Verdict and Cryptic Coat are all useful in the same matchup. So you're either unlikely to force and you're really happy to have Coat and Verdict, or you're just gonna force because you don't need Verdict in this matchup.
Okay. Is this the matchup I think it is? Yeah, I think this is it. Yeah, so this is a stompy one. I think might, I probably shouldn't have forced this, which I think I end up doing. I
I would
already
not
have
force
Island
this.
Plains, but I guess my hangup was I have this Verdict and no other removal spells, but in retrospect, that Verdict is really far off.
Yeah, and the Force of Will is a removal spell here. Like if they go Chrome Mox, hit Exile to Chrome Mox, Ancient Tomb, Blood Moon. That's 4 cards. Did they keep 7? They
Um,
mulligan to 6. They have a 2-card hand right now.
yeah.
And you still have Force of Will in the bag. You could still ponder, and you could still cast Cryptic Coat with what you already have, which is a better creature than a lot of their creatures.
Yeah.
I would let this Blood Moon resolve all day, and this is kind of like 2019, 2018, maybe. Like when I first started streaming, I was playing a ton of blue white Stoneblade decks, and it's because Red Stompy was so popular,
Yeah.
and that we could ignore some percentage of their turn one bangers. Like this is a beautiful opportunity to get virtual card advantage.
And I just said no, thank you.
Yep, and pitch the coat, which
Yeah.
I would have liked to have.
Yeah. I guess I was just so nailed down to, look, I can like verdict up some big sloppy board later on, but um, yeah, they needed this, which also
Yeah,
wouldn't have
I
happened
would
if
have
I
liked
just
to force that.
which also wouldn't have happened if he'd Blood Moon because he wouldn't the tombs wouldn't have done anything. I mean, I get bailed out, but it's not, I don't deserve it, but there it is.
Yeah, I agree. Like going to two cards in hand to cast a card that you don't even care about, and then also takes them off their own turn two play. That's exactly what we want, just structurally, versus a matchup like this to occur.
Can't remember what he did for Bombardiers. I didn't cast Narset, huh? What did I put on?
Yeah, I
Now I
don't
can't
like
remember.
that.
Huh?
Let's talk about that. So you seem confused that you didn't cast Narset. So
Yeah, I was gonna
right
die. I
now,
thought I might have. I can't remember what I put under that ponder because I know it's underneath it. It was probably a plow. That's probably what it was. Yeah.
if it's Plow, you can just get that with Narset. And if Narset absorbs 3 damage or 2 damage or any amount of damage off
Yeah.
this attack, that's a good deal.
Yeah.
Because
The thought was, yeah, okay, I remember now. There is plow on top of my deck, so the thought is next turn I can just Narset off triple island. I'll have a plow in hand to deal with the bombardier, and then whatever Narset gets me, she gets me. Is I guess where my train of thought was.
okay,
So it's been a while since I played this league, so I'm like, I don't quite remember. Yeah, there's the plow. Okay.
okay, yeah. If we know Plow is on top, then holding back Narset makes more sense. Because we've seen the One Ring. Narset's not an irrelevant card in the matchup.
Yeah, I think with this one it was. I think I almost win this one, but he's hellbent, but he ends up just endlessly. I needed a space where he would not just draw land, but it never quite materialized. So like here he
Right,
is. Huh?
and like you're probably just going to hit Bombardiers no matter what, but you also could have held the Plow to see what happens that turn.
Yeah.
They don't have any instance. It's fine.
The issue is you can keep plowing this hearse. Yeah.
It just kills both your planeswalkers.
He doesn't care about Narset, so which I mean fair enough, I guess. Go verdict. Yeah, I end up just getting put under too much pressure. Like I needed a space where he just drew like a land or something, and he couldn't take an action, but it kind of felt like he was just always doing something.
Yep. And these games, they always feel like, oh, why didn't you just draw a land, or why didn't you just go do one card worse than you
Yeah,
actually did? And the reality is, we traded 2 cards on turn one for
yeah,
something that we could have ignored, and then we're up 2 cards, up 2 spells, cryptic coats in play. These 1/1s aren't effective attackers, etc., etc. So
yeah,
much happened just on that force of will that didn't need to occur.
yeah,
And on top of that, like additional second order consequences of that exchange, you had to cast a shitty brainstorm on the next turn to dig for force that pitched Snapcaster Mage. Like a Snapcaster Mage wins this game, a cryptic coat in play wins that game. That was all. That was all available, and it all stemmed from just that turn one decision of
yeah,
thinking you cared about Blood Moon, but you don't.
yeah. This hand, I can't remember if I kept it or not. I don't like that there's red for Meltdown, which is not a pip I'm close to. Force I'm okay with. Cauldra I don't love, but I think I keep this hand on the Island Ponder line. And in my head, the other thing I was remembering looking at this was that he hasn't seen Stoneforge yet.
Yep.
So there's a very real chance that I can just go turn 2 Stoneforge, force whatever he kind of panic buttons to do to remove it. Because I don't know if you would keep your Furies in if you just thought you were facing a vanilla Jeskai deck,
Right.
having not seen a Stoneforge or any equipment. So yeah,
Yeah, I think this hand is actually great because Stoneforge is your best card in this matchup, and Force of Will can protect your Stoneforge. You
the only
can
thing, yeah,
beat Red Prison with one spell. Like if Stoneforge Mystic goes uncontested and just puts in Batterskull, puts in Kaldra, they are dead.
yeah,
And a lot of their like aggregate starts don't even beat that. Like Rabblemaster versus Batterskull, they have to attack. You get to
yeah.
eat them on attack and defense. Like there's so many insane things that happen with a Stoneforge, and you have the force to make the pressure off. Like I actually think this hand is great.
Yeah. The only sketchy thing is no second land, but I have Island, but I've pondered Brainstorm, so like I guess
Right.
figure it out. You have to trust the deck at some point.
Yeah. Right.
So what do I do? Yeah, I probably just ponder. Yeah, okay. White
Yep,
lands
straight into a big pile of basics. We love it.
There you go. We're good. I think does he? Yeah, he chalices. I don't actually care about that right now.
Right. And I love that. Like compared to last game where you snapped off on the Blood Moon that didn't matter, keeping this force because recognizing Chalice doesn't matter is exactly how you want to take over this
Yeah,
matchup.
now Meltdown's actually insane off a Strand too. Don't care
Yep.
about this. I mean, I wanted my Flooded Strand to be a Volk anyway, so like, sure,
Right.
why not?
And this is the structural advantage of our deck versus
Yeah,
theirs, just kicking in. And like I know we agree Blood Moon should have resolved. I'm not trying to
yeah,
be crazy, keep bringing it up, but like Chalice of the Void don't care. Blood Moon don't care. You are still fully gassed up. You have pressure on the board. You have a threat they can't answer. You have a force will in your hand, and you can melt down 3 permanents next turn. This is
this was the
basically the
turn where I
nuts.
felt like, yeah, I basically can't lose this. I don't know how I lose from this position. Was how
I'm
I felt when I
interested to
attacked
find
with
out.
Stoneforge.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I don't, but if I do, then I'll be very upset with myself.
Let's pause for a second. Why is Damping Sphere in your deck?
I He was operating off a bunch of soul lands last round.
I don't think that card is worth the space in this matchup. Uh, like, they are a deck with Blood Moon. They are clearly okay functioning in a world where their soul lands tap for 1 if they're willing to shove a Blood Moon into their own Ancient Tombs all the time.
Yeah,
And they're never going to double spell, but you might need to get to a point where you like need to ponder into brainstorm, into fetch, into ponder, and then find the miracle plow at the end to stabilize.
okay.
And Damn Sphere is going to lock you out of those cantrip chains. I don't think that should be in.
Okay. Um, then yeah, I'd probably just Batterskull, right? Yeah, Batterskull, Cauldron, then go get him, team.
So at this point, we should be thinking about what are those 4 cards in hand, because they kept this hand on purpose. Went lock piece, nothing. Is there any sequence of cards in this hand that could actually beat us?
I was kind of thinking like there's maybe like there's a ring hand where they can turn me off for a turn, but I don't know. It just feels like there's so little that I actually care about at this point.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't know. I don't even know if I'd necessarily force a ring that came down. I mean, I guess it buys them a turn, but like, what are you really gonna draw to get out of this? I guess.
I would force a ring because you're about to attack them to 1
Yeah.
if they have no board. And putting them to 1's a pretty good place to be versus 3 creatures.
Yeah, one of which
Yeah.
tramples, so yeah. Kind of
Yep.
blows that up, sure, whatever. I forgot. I always forget what Menace or like Fear does, but yeah. I always get those two like transposed in my head. I melt down just for fun, and then yeah, I don't know what I could do to lose at this point.
Right.
But yeah.
So I think Melting Down was correct, but it wasn't for fun. It was to turn on Spell Pierce and deny them a mana. Like at least like if it was just for fun, like if they were literally dead on board and you were just like, haha, I had the meltdown too, now you're dead, I would have hid the meltdown. So like Meltdown for fun versus Meltdown to make
Yeah,
sure Spell Pierce is live. Just make sure you understand
I think I
why
saw
you're
that.
doing what you're
I
doing.
just like looking back on it a week later. I guess I didn't realize it, but yeah,
Right, right.
I'm
Yep,
pretty sure I saw that in person. We forgot to go over the sideboard. Two blue blasts. I suppose I brought in a damping sphere. I mean, what am I gonna say? I drew it.
yep.
A verdict and two meltdowns. So that's two, three, four, five, six, seven cards. I think. What did I pull? I didn't think dress down was very good here.
Yeah, it's not.
I didn't love back to basics, so that's
Agree.
three. I pulled some number of Narsets, maybe like two or maybe just like most of them. And then I think I pulled out a force to get me over the line to seven.
Okay. I would definitely not cut Force
Okay.
against this deck. Just like we saw, there's cards in situations that just don't matter, and they have to invest resources into doing it. Like Chromox pitch a thing, cast a Chalice that you could completely ignore,
Yeah.
and then you could force their next thing. Uh, I love Force of Will in this matchup. Um, I love white removal in this matchup, and I love threatening them in this matchup. So I agree with the two blue blasts. I agree with at least one meltdown. You might not need both, but I think
Yeah.
it's fine if you're worried about Chalice. Um, Supreme Verdict is good.
Damping sphere, like you said, is probably more hurts us just as much as it hurts them.
It hurts us more,
Yeah.
and like the opportunity cost of that could have been whatever card we boarded out for it.
Yeah.
Like I would rather have a Narset or a Force of Will or a Dress Down than Damping Sphere in this matchup.
Yeah. Okay.
So
Especially where
I'm
they've
looking
ID'd as having the one ring.
right, right. So like I would probably be looking at the Dress Downs, the Back to Basics, and then maybe like one Narset, and that
Okay.
gets us the two Blue Blasts, one Meltdown, and the Supreme Verdict, which I think is all we really need here because our deck is just structurally phenomenal against what they're
Yeah.
doing.
The only thing that kind of makes me nervous is the one ring, but yeah, otherwise it feels pretty good.
We have four forces and three Narsets still in the deck
Yeah.
versus the One Ring.
Okay.
I also think like if we had more to cut, Lavinia has a lot of text here because they are trying to cast spells that cost more than their land count in almost all situations.
Well, I
But
guess I don't bring her in because I see a lot of three drops, and a lot of three drops are creatures which Lavinia doesn't do anything against.
right, like Lavinia would come in if you had more to cut,
Oh, I see. I
but
see
you
what you're saying.
don't.
Okay.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Like the same. It's the same thing with the damping sphere. I think Lavinia is way better than damping sphere, but I think they have both have the same problem where they only affect certain situations, and they are worse than the cards you would cut to make room for them.
Okay. I think this game I remember as being pretty crazy. I thought I played well, but um, I maybe I didn't.
All right, let's find
um,
out.
here's the hand. Pretty much snap keep. Yeah, the only thing that makes me a little queasy is if they blood moon on turn zero, that might cause some problems, but I do have a brainstorm. Prismatic ending is a little wonky. I feel like as long as I don't get blood mooned on their turn one, I should be okay.
Yeah, if you could get a single planes under you before that happens, I like what's going on here a lot.
Oh, dadgummit. I always do that. I'm in the MTGO thing where I hit two to like
Oh yeah, to
progress the
start.
turn. Like, wait, damn, that's not what I wanted. No, no, just when does the board get small again? Okay, there we are. Okay, little pucker. Oh, hearse, whatever, fine. I thought he
All
might
right.
pitch like a simian spirit guide or something. Like, oh, okay, I'm in trouble. Not really. I so I chose not to brainstorm here.
I
I
wouldn't.
don't
Yeah.
know whether you think that's wrong or not.
No. I like not brainstorming here. My play here is to fetch Meticulous Archive and then just work my way up into the Stratosphere because you got four lands in hand and an answer to it and spells to cast that cost the 3 anyway.
Yeah, I guess I suppose the other thing is like the thing that in retrospect, I was talking with someone about this. They mentioned that like by not brainstorming here, you have essentially elected to take the next 2 turns off,
Sure.
which is true. But I mean,
You take one turn off
okay, yeah. Well,
because
my
you're about to untap, make your second land. Like this is time walk basically, but it's a
yeah,
time walk that doesn't deal damage to you when you're holding three more basic lands, a wrath, and two answers to the Trinisphere.
okay. I gotta stop
Like
hitting two.
if they had turn one Fable of the Mirror Breaker or Broadside Bombardiers or Goblin Rabble Master, I would be brainstorming desperately to try to make sure this Trinisphere doesn't make me take a turn off. But like the One Ring is the card they could cast next turn. That would be kind of rough. But I still think you are better off with Trinisphere in play than trying to YOLO brainstorm, which then would have to pitch your Teferi or your Verdict to answer the Trinisphere, which would be three answers gone or two answers gone to the next real thing they do.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, I don't do anything. I don't think I fetched for archive to your last point. I guess maybe I fear Blood Moon too much, and with Verdict costing white pips, I sort of figured it's more important to get the white under me and actually execute rather than just get, got by some random Blood Moon later on.
I think that's reasonable.
All right.
And now we have three answers to Trinisphere in hand.
And then they do that thing that we didn't want them to do.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know.
That's fine. I mean, now I guess depending on how many Narcits are in your deck, which we don't even know, I actually would have gotten Meticulous Archive there because Narcit is our best card in this spot.
Yeah. I think I just bounce it, if that's my recollection. Yeah, I don't know if that was. I just opted to make them take the turn again.
Yeah, I think that's fine. They have to tap Ancient Tomb again. It costs them extra card draw.
So they do their One Ring thing.
You have Teferi plus. You could just
Yeah,
wait on this
I
meltdown and
could
then
have just
surprise
waited.
them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like they might cast a Chalice or another Trinisphere or just a Chrome Mox this turn, and then you get extra value.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I Verdict on the next turn.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm just like drooling, like, oh yes, give it to me. But it looks good, but there's also One Ring in the background doing its messed up thing, so it's not like I'm like treading water barely. It feels like.
Yeah, that One Ring makes me nervous. That Brainstorm also made me nervous. I probably would have just Verdicted because if you miss a land there, you lose.
I wonder what I was trying to get. Yeah, okay.
And the upside is you get to make an extra land drop, which you were rewarded by, but the downside is you lose, which are not generally gambles I take in matchups like this.
Okay. I think it was either this turn or the next turn that I think I realized my best way was just try to get them to kill themselves with a One Ring.
Right.
Verdict's nice. So what did I do? Yeah, I probably just cast Stoneforge.
I like it.
Blast, yeah. I kind of figured, so maybe it's worth pausing here. I kind of figured that I want to pressure them. I got Cauldron because I have 6 lands in play, and it feels like if I draw one more land and I just slam Cauldron next turn, I'm okay. I have Force backup, and then if they do something weird like try to go big, I can Verdict.
Uh, I think that you are thinking about this too hard.
Okay.
They are dead here. They're about to go to 6. The next ring, if they draw 0 cards, kills them after a Cauldron hit, and you have Force in between. So they would have to answer Stoneforge and come up with 10 damage this turn before they just die to their ring through a Force of Will. Like, all the things you said are not untrue, but at some point, you just like go back into the dummy part of the bell curve and just like, Stoneforge goes burr. And that is where I am right now.
The one thing that I know they could do that would insta kill me is a Rabble Master flinging their ring. Um, that's an insta kill. I guess that's the one thing I'm worried about, which is what the forces do.
Sure.
But
Yep.
yeah,
Yeah.
I guess
Yeah.
that
And
was the one
that's where Force of Will
thing.
comes in.
Yeah, that was the one way that I identified I lose this,
Yep.
for sure.
Agreed. Yeah. They need to navigate Force of Will and apply lethal pressure this turn, though.
So that's a force.
Yep.
I just can't let them have that.
Okay. Now they can't activate their ring because they're going to 1 anyway.
So I figure here it's like, okay, well, if I draw land, I win. And if I
Yep.
pass, they have to figure a way to deal me 7. Is where
Yes.
I'm at with this.
And they have Den in play, which deals 4.
That doesn't do anything, so I'm just in. Please don't draw your 3rd Bombardier.
Yep.
They just kind
Okay.
of do this, and I'm pretty sure this doesn't add up to 7. Yeah, it doesn't. And I think that's it.
Yeah. Bombardier just kills you there. A second ring buys them time.
I guess I hadn't considered a 2nd ring, yeah, as a thing they can do. Maybe they
Yeah,
didn't
that's not a
either.
great thing. And the Ancient Tomb is off for the rest of the game anyway. But yeah, that was just kind of understanding what's important and what's not.
Okay.
And the Trinisphere was not a player in that game. Like you could have, like if you are already holding Force of Will and something to do for 2 mana, maybe we just force the Trinisphere on tap, play Stoneforge.
Yeah.
Like that's a different conversation based on the context in that alternate reality. But when we're not even holding Force and we're talking about just burning off a fetch land and a brainstorm to try to maybe hit this thing that we may or may not care about. Obviously, we're accepting a time walk. They get a turn where we can't cast any spells. That's fine. Maybe we lose there, but most of the time we don't. And I would rather just have access to my cards still than panic and throw them around and answer a thing that we're already holding 3 answers for if we could just be patient.
Okay. The last 2 matches of this league are another scam and a rug delver. I think the scam is pretty much a mirror, so maybe I'll just show you the rug one because I think this might be the last matchup, and I had some questions outside the league too that
Okay.
are worth maybe 10 or 15 minutes.
Cool.
So instead of watching another mirror, because I don't even know how valid it is, how valid the gameplay would be anymore, just because I feel like I have to approach it differently now that I'm pulling out forces. But it feels like at least with Delver, it'd be kind of cool to see what you think the differences are between Rug and Grixis too, other than the obvious like card choices or how you approach them.
Okay.
Um, so totally in the dark here. I think I throw this one back. I don't love Batterskull. I don't love 2/3 drops, and I don't love praying that my brainstorm works out.
So for this one, the way that I'm thinking about that, when would you brainstorm if you kept this hand?
I would I would probably brainstorm on what amounts to my turn 2.
Okay. That's also what I would brainstorm.
Assuming assuming I don't just draw land on the next turn. Yeah.
Right. And that's the juice here. So this hand, you have 19 lands in your 54 card deck. That's slightly better than 1 in 3 cards is a land in your deck right now.
Yeah.
You get draw step on turn 1, draw step on turn 2, then brainstorms another 3. You get to see 5 cards before you miss a land drop here. And if either of your first 2 draw steps are just the land, now we have brainstorm with fetch land available to clear this Batterskull. Or we could just shove a Stoneforge.
Okay.
I do tend to keep hands like this in the dark.
What did I do?
just based on that math.
Yeah, I mulliganed it, and then I wound up with something pretty much in the same spot. This
Right.
one's
Except now you
arguably
don't
even
have a
worse.
brainstorm to help.
Yeah, this one's even worse. Now I have like white cards, blue mana. It's like this hand's even worse. I think I mulligan this too.
Yeah, I think this one you have to mulligan. I like the first one.
Oh
Oh,
no, I
yikes.
kept it.
Okay,
Yeah,
here we go.
it's also in
Let's
the
test
dark
it.
too. But yeah, when I realized it's Delver, like, oh, I'm dead. Like,
I mean, your hand's great if you draw
yeah,
planes.
and yeah, there it is. But yeah, I definitely felt like I traded in a kind of sketchy 7 for a really sketchy 6, and just got like happily bailed out.
Right, but like the thing that bails you out there also makes your 7 better. Like you're drawing to basically the same outs, except the 7 had more hits to find those outs.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't actually, pausing on that. Would you have plowed the Darcy or the Delver first? Because the Delver potentially represents more damage, but I'm kind of a fan of putting a bit of cooling off Murktide a bit.
Yeah, I agree. They already have 3 card types in the graveyard. Uh, I think that's a brainstorm under the ponder. It's a
Yeah,
little blurry.
yeah.
So they already have 3 card types. If they have a bauble, it's the same damage anyway. If they cast a cantrip and mill a creature or a bauble, it's the same damage anyway. I like chilling out their card selection here, and Delver may or may not flip. I don't know. I don't actually know the math of what's more likely, whether they find a 4th card type or they flip a spell here. But either one might just attack for 1, and one of them does a lot more if it's a 1/1 than the other.
Okay,
So I like taking out the Chandler.
interesting. Okay, it flipped. They flipped days. Okay, whatever.
Fine. We're good at playing around that card.
Pretty sure I otherworldly. Yeah. I still like otherworldly as a one of, but I feel like that card's gonna get obsoleted come MH3. But I guess we can talk
I
about that
I would be
later.
making those plays on their upkeep. By the way, just
On their
there's
upkeep.
nothing they could have there that would be worse for you on their upkeep. Like if they did spell pierce, at least make them spend mana on their turn to do it.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, okay. Or if they're gonna daze, make them spend a land drop on their turn.
Right. Like
Okay.
daze doesn't counter it, but double daze does. Like
Yeah,
if
yeah.
they pay 2 mana to daze that and then pick up a land to daze it, then just go to their turn with 2 mana still, versus tapping out completely, then picking up a land on their upkeep. Or if they like spell pierce is the cleanest answer they could really have. Make them play with 1 less land on their turn. Just using instants uh, with opportunities to max punish if they fight back is another big
Dadgummit.
place for
I did the
upgrowth.
MTGO thing again.
Yep.
I hit 2 to start playing it. Okay, where was I? Yeah, we were right around here somewhere. Okay, we'll just play through this. That's fine. Yeah, so I cast that. Yeah, do it in their upkeep. Understood.
Also, if they have Force of Negation, they could have got you there, and they can't get you on their upkeep. There's a lot of reasons to do it in the upkeep.
Okay. Yeah, they DRC again. At this point, I know they have days, so I'm not plowing, but I also don't see a reason why I would take that risk, even if I didn't know days was in their hand.
Yeah, there's no reason to do that. Just take your time.
I just ponder here while the getting's good. Take an island. I'm pretty sure I'm shuffling the rest of that away. Oh, go with the Stone Forge.
I think that's fine. This does give them an extra surveil if they have bolt, and extra damage if they flip anything here. Um, but not plowing it means that you're ready for Murktide, which is ready to rear its mighty head.
Yeah, it's getting about that time. Put back Batterskull and Archive, probably. Oh, Batterskull and something else. Don't need that.
Yeah, I actually really like Batterskull here, just casting it as a
Yeah.
spell. And we're
Baubles.
delirious. Okay, they started to cast Murktide, then
Yeah, I
changed their
don't know if
mind.
that was like a juke or not, so I just kind of like whatevered it. But when they cast it, okay, so now I have to obviously do something about this.
I actually would have forced the Murktide because you're still losing to this Dragon's Rage Channeler, and Plow can answer that, but it's already in play, so Force can't answer it.
I guess my
Like,
thought was if I force pitching the Narset and Plow, I am left with if I execute on that plan, I have a basic planes and I'm pretty much at the mercy of my deck. I guess what I was thinking was I can take 3, I can Plow the Regent, go to my next turn, play Narset, dig for any number of 1 mana things that will just, kill this channeler and then go from there.
right. So if you're not willing to force Murktide Region in that spot, why did you put back Batterskull and not your 2 forces off that Brainstorm last turn?
Yeah, I probably should have kept Batterskull around. I
Right.
guess I,
So yeah. So there's like uh, kind of a incompatible uh, combating thoughts in your brain here. Like you have this thing somewhere in your brain that's like, I'm going to keep a Force Blue card just in case, and then like, but the thing that you would force of will in this matchup was just on the stack and you didn't force it. So if we need to bring the whole picture together and be aware of the whole picture on every decision, because if we're not going to force Murktide there, you should have put back the 2 forces last turn and kept the Batterskull.
yeah, okay. I guess I get bailed out by drawing a blue card, and then now I have this, and I kind of thread the needle that I was hoping to.
I mean, this mostly ends up the same though. Like they would have forced to. I guess you wouldn't have Narset the other way,
Yeah,
but if you put back both forces, you would have Batterskull.
only one choice there. Can't mess that one up.
Yep.
I just dress down, stop them from flipping, and
Yep.
cycle it.
Like that.
Card isn't doing anything else, so whatever. Pretty sure they kill an Narset. Yeah, one to me. They just play Seek, requesting. Wouldn't it have been nice to have a Batterskull here?
It would. This would be the spot to stick
Oh,
something like that. Oh,
yeah.
look at you.
Yeah,
A
that's why I
legend.
put it back. This one I just got bailed out. Otherwise, it was going to be a Narset into, like, I don't know, digging for a verdict.
Yeah, I mean, like if that Delver flipped revealing Brainstorm, then they found two bolts off of the Brainstorm. You lose here anyway.
Yeah.
But the Delver not flipping was just free money.
Oh. All right. Well, there's a part 2. Did it already? Oh, it already went to the part 2. Oh, I think they conceded after that.
Okay,
I probably found a removal or something off the software I was using only recorded for a half an hour, but yeah.
gotcha. Yeah, so I mean that was a really interesting spot where the thing ended up working out kind of by accident, and being able to separate like was my line good or did I get bailed because I happened to draw a blue card on that turn? And Narset happened to find a white removal spell. Like if Narset just like finds a force of will or misses, you're in a ton of trouble there.
Yeah.
And then like maybe like having some density of force of wills to counter their spells is reasonable in the matchup, and we just saw why that might be true. But I think more likely the plan was confused and we got bailed out.
Yeah. In terms of sideboarding, unsurprising. It's pretty much the same thing as last time. 2 red blasts, 2 blue blasts, a verdict, 2 hearses, and I'm pulling out like forces. Probably like 2 Narsets and 2 dress downs. They're even worse now that they don't. Now that Bowmaster isn't even like maybe a thing.
I would go 2 dress down and back to basics and leave all the Narsets.
Okay.
That gets used to the 7. That's
Yeah.
what you did last time, I think.
Was it? Okay. I really have to write this down. Like when next time we do it, I'll write it down. It was just one of those things I realized after the league was over. Like, wait, MTGO doesn't show me like replay. It doesn't show me how I
If
sideboarded. So
if
like,
you
oh,
open your sideboard when you are recording the replay, it will show you what's in your sideboard currently in the game,
Oh.
and you
Oh,
could
so
just
if I
like
were to go into
put that in the video.
MTGO right now, play the replay, and like I could right click and view sideboard, and it would.
Yes, yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
pro tip,
Also,
good to know.
if you like, I mean, it seems like you have. You just said you were running a software that records 30 minutes at a time, so this might not be feasible. If you just record the gameplay straight up, just hit record and play the match and skip the whole MTGO replay, then we actually see you in your sideboard moving cards around.
Yeah, okay. I played this over a couple days, so I wasn't like it wasn't all in
Right.
one session, but yeah, I'm now on trying OBS Ninja, which seems better. Hope doesn't have that half-hour limit, but that's the least of the problems right now.
Cool. Yep.
1080. All right. So this one, like, I don't know. This one, I made a decision that I'm kind of curious. This game came down to one decision. Right now, in my head, I have alarm bells going off of Stifle.
Okay.
I don't know if that's reasonable or not, but I know Stifle is sometimes a thing they play, and also a Delver deck passing to me on turn 0 or on their turn 1 and doing just nothing is extremely suspicious to me. And
So,
at
right,
least
go
with
ahead.
respect to this hand, I function off of white. Like if I get blue, I can brainstorm. Um, but if I don't find a place to get white, then 3 cards in my hand do actually nothing, which was kind of the squeeze I was feeling when he passed like that. But yeah,
So, Delver, in its current configuration in the modern day, is not a one drop days deal exactly 20 damage deck anymore. It hasn't been for many years. So they could just have like 3 lands, a Spell Pierce, a Brainstorm, and a Questing Druid right now. And that hand would be perfectly in the range of keepable hands.
okay.
And another thing you could do, especially when you're playing on Magic Online, is go find out. I just opened up MTG Goldfish and looked at like the first 7 Teamer Delver lists, and there's no Stifle in any of them. So that
Okay.
doesn't mean this player doesn't have it right now,
Yeah.
but uh, doing a little bit of homework, especially if you have like an event tomorrow or something, or later this weekend, just look over MTG Top 8 or MTG Goldfish real quick and just take a look at what the stock lists of these popular decks are
Yeah.
doing.
I knew it wasn't in the stock lists, but I can count the number of Delver games that I've played against in the last month or two that have started on land pass and like on one hand pretty much. So I guess that's why I was worried.
Right, like it is weird, but I think what's weirder is that they led on Tropical Island, which is a one of in basically all teamer lists,
Yeah.
and they play 4 volcanics and a bunch of fetches. Some even have Thundering Falls. And why would they lead on Tropical Island and not a thing that casts Pyroblast or casts Lightning Bolt or casts, like, maybe they just don't have that,
Yeah.
or maybe their hand starts on 2. Maybe they're about to play a counterbalance and they wanted to put the less important land out first, just in case you suddenly wasteland them.
Okay.
Like, I would be thinking about those sort of things. I mean, being aware that Stifle's in the format and someone might have it is not harmful, but I would just like put it somewhere in the back of my mind and accept that I'm not fetching this turn anyway because we don't know if we need white or blue yet,
Yeah.
and just let it ride for a minute.
So it kind of comes up here because here
Yep.
I felt like this is where I basically lost this game. Spoiler alert, but I decide that I'm gonna get a basic planes and I'm just gonna have to trust my deck to deliver white at some point. I kind of figure I can get away with it. I have 2 removal spells, neither of which are soft to daze. I can even Stoneforge Mystic out if I want, and as long as I draw Island or something that can cast a Brainstorm within the next, 2 turns or so, I'm okay.
Yep. And all of this is predicated on fear of a card that is not in any stock list right now.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay. Yeah, so that's the intersection of like uh format awareness and like format awareness at large, like what cards are legal in the format and could conceivably be represented here, and format awareness of you actually know what's in decks right now. Because I think that even if they do, like if this deck played four Stifle in the stock, I probably would fetch here and just pick a color. But even then, I would probably pick blue
Okay.
because I trust Brainstorm to deliver white more than I trust the deck to deliver blue. I think.
Yeah. Well, okay. Well, basically the game ends after this. I get planes. This is like the state on like turn 5. It's just it just doesn't go anywhere. I think I get to like turn like 7 or 8 or something. I never see a basic island and I just scoop. But the rest of the game isn't that interesting. But yeah, what won or lost it for me was right here. Um, in retrospect, yeah, I guess I should just get Island and Brainstorm if I'm really that paranoid about it. But yeah, it's not like I didn't know Stifle wasn't common. I just his turn one trot pass just juked me so thoroughly that I didn't quite know which way was up at that point.
Okay. Can you actually pan the scroll bar to the end of this game? I want to see what turn it ends on and what actually happens.
Turn 8.
Okay. So we can also do some fast math here. They haven't wastelanded you based on looking at the graveyard.
Yeah,
They haven't stifled you based on looking at the graveyard. This was, and that was turn one that you did that. So this
yeah.
is literally 7 draws without a blue source, which you play 4, 9, 10, 14, 15, 16, 17 of. So you missed a 17 outer on 7 draws. Like 1 out of 3, roughly. 1 out of 2.5 cards in your deck is a blue source by the end of this game, and you missed on 7 outs.
I drew lots of brainstorms though. The deck was
Yeah,
punishing me.
right, right. So, like in all seriousness, like
Yeah.
understanding, oh, I threw it when I fetched planes on turn one versus I ran insanely bad. I think a lot of bad players lean on, oh, I ran bad when they don't recognize where they actually messed up. But also, this is an insane run bad.
Yeah,
Like just actually by the numbers, understanding like I don't think you should have fetched at all. But if you are going to fetch, if you are going to respect Stifle, if you are going to get planes there, and then just lose to Delver after having 4 hard removal spells in your hand somewhere around turn 4, and you're just dead 4 turns after that, like you
yeah.
ran bad on
This
top of
I kept
everything
thinking
else.
like, man, if I just got one basic island, like I have Plow, I have Prismatic Ending, I have March, I have 2 verdicts. Like an island unlocks this like completely. If I draw a basic island at any point, I'm cooking. But yeah, it just doesn't materialize. So I don't know.
Right, right, and I appreciate the self awareness to say like I lost this when I fetched the wrong land on turn one. That's a better default than blaming variance. But also looking at the end of this game, variance is a perfectly reasonable culprit at this point.
It was a bit of both, but yeah, I guess
Right.
it's hindsight. But also, yeah, 7 with no blue sources is pretty rough, which I was also feeling on turn 8. It's like, deck, please,
Right.
like,
Right.
come on.
Yeah. Like you don't need to play around Stifle out of Team Redelver right now in the format. And even if you do want to play around Stifle, you could draw for your next turn, play Mountain, draw for your next turn, and somewhere along the line they may tap out again. Or you just don't care about Stifle anymore at some point.
Yeah.
Like you could have just played a longer game around Stifle rather than choosing a color on turn one and hoping it worked.
Yeah.
So like that was a decision point. But then, missing on a 17 outer for 7 draws. It's extremely unlucky.
Yeah. So, okay, whatever. It happened. So, there you go. So for game 3, what did I start with? A little sketchy. I think I keep it though. Again, I don't love Meticulous Archive into the known 4 of Wasteland deck, but if you open on it, you get to control your next draw, and I don't think they're going to be especially prone to just wastelanding you right out the gate. So I feel like I'm pretty likely to get at least one untap with this thing. Um,
Yep. And
Okay.
it's not uncommon for Delver to shave on Wastelands against decks with high basic counts. They might not know that's true because they only saw Plains Mountain out of you game one.
That was
But you
game
might
two,
not
but
even be
yeah.
playing against four Wastelands right now.
Okay, yeah. So I pretty sure I rolled with yeah, I did. So I'm what did I been? Yeah, that's much later. I don't need that. What does he do? He does ponder. Okay, yay, I get a turn off. So I'm pretty sure I just ponder here for my next land drop if I don't draw it. Yeah. So I'm just gonna ponder. Jackpot. Now I feel pretty set up to just blast something. This was a bit of a is counterbalance getting to be pretty common in these Delver games?
It's in a lot of main decks as a one of. There's
Yeah.
two across most 75s. A lot of people have one and one in the main and side. So yes, you should be thinking about counterbalance.
Are you shaving forces against Delver still?
Yes.
Okay. 'Cause I don't know if like the right play is to just keep them in or if it just comes in, just figure out a way to play around it. But yeah, so I'm not sweating quite. I'm not feeling great, but I'm not like sweating quite yet either. I'm still on turn like 3 and we're bloodless, so I feel okay ish.
Right. So you have 2 3 drops in your hand that can clear counterbalance if temporarily, and three is not a number they play a lot of. So counterbalance is not going to help them fight over Teferi probably. You're also floating a Pyroblast atop your deck right now. The second they reveal that there's not a one on top of their deck, you can zap that counterbalance.
Yeah. Okay, so we go on. I don't do anything. I don't feel compelled to drop my 3-drop into a daze, so
Great.
whatever. I decide to just brainstorm, take a look. I get lucky.
We did just see another Wasteland, but we also like Wasteland means that you don't really want to fetch Valk here, but Wasteland also means counterbalance is not going to counter Pyroblast.
I don't think I did it. This might also be me reading too much into it. I don't know if they wanted to spend a brainstorm or a cantrip just countering a I guess just countering a cantrip, but I feel like with 2 unopened islands up, I didn't pyroblast because that feels like the thing they would bust out the manipulation for.
Yeah, and more than that, like if I could fetch my basic mountain, I probably would send the Pyroblast in and make them cantrip to answer it. Because if they cantrip to answer Pyroblast, then Stoneforge resolves, and you get to dance them there. But what I'm not going to do is fetch my one volcanic island into this face-up wasteland.
Yeah, okay. I hope I thought of that at the time, but I was pretty sure this one would resolve. They don't run a lot of 2s other than days, I think. Um, and if you want to double daze me here, please do. Yeah. And then I
Yeah,
figure
sure.
once you double daze me, then I'm pretty safe to just go for it to fairy next turn. Yeah,
It's
so
funny. They revealed Pyroblast on top of the deck, but then they had another one
yeah, they
anyway.
had another one. So this game gets all kinds of like screwy. I don't know. I guess you'll see later.
And this is what I was talking about, though. Like they haven't even presented a threat
Yeah, and
yet.
they.
Like,
I
or
feel like they
did
made a
you plow
mistake
something?
tapping there too. When they played Seek the Beast, they didn't. They left a Volk. They should have gone Volk Wasteland. But the second they go Volk Volk, I know you can't manipulate your top anymore. So
Right.
here's my window. I'm just gonna send it, and whatever happens, happens. Basically,
Sure.
I get kind of lucky with the counterbalances. They just reveal another land, so whatever, I guess. Just gonna plow. Whatever.
And now we're in that position that blue white always ends up in versus Delver, where we're not going to lose for a while, but we don't really know how we're going to win yet.
Yeah. I decided to Pyro Blue Blast that rather than
I
not having
agree.
more
I like it.
cards. I feel like here there's an argument that I should plow this because they already know I have Verdict, or they don't. I don't know if they know I have Verdict, but they know that I play Verdict. So maybe I should just plow it and accept that I'm not going to get fed like a juicy 2-for-1.
I think it's the opposite. Using a verdict here tells them you don't have plow because you just one for one with verdict,
Yeah.
and they might think, okay, there goes the verdict, time to dump out,
Okay.
and your hand just happens to punish both of those thought processes that supreme verdicting indicates.
Okay. So
I'd like
for
saving the plow as the more efficient thing later and just starting to flush out these 4 drops from your hand.
so you at this point probably would just verdict and then
Yep.
make them flush and then still be sitting on another verdict or plow for whatever happens next. Okay.
Yes, I would verdict here. I don't want to let this thing just take me down into bolt range or Murktide hit range or whatever.
Yeah, now this thing's getting pretty big. Starting to get a little worried.
Yep.
How come I can't? I wish I could see how many cards I get. There's a Delver. And it's what? Pretty sure it's Ponder. I'm still probably playing way too patient with these verdicts.
You are.
Yeah.
We like you keep drawing 1 drop removal, which your deck does play a lot of, but we have taken
Way too much.
we've taken 7 damage now from things that could have just been dead.
Yeah. I can't afford to like try and snap plow and walk into a pyroblast or something.
Right. Agreed.
So I just run back to basics out just more or less for the sake of it. If I can flush out a red blast, so much the better. And now we're just kind of chilling.
Snapcaster's got to do 33 here. Batterskull helps.
So I didn't cast Batterskull because off one of the Delver flips I saw Force.
Okay.
So I'm pretty sure his hand is like Force and then like 3 other unknowns, and it seems reasonable to think that he has 1 blue card floating around in there. So even though I have it, I'm not going to cast it into a known Force.
Sure. I actually like Cryptic Coat more than land there, unless
Yeah.
you're planning. If you're not going to shuffle and you've counted out how much mana you need to like Snap Blast to protect Cryptic Coat, then I think that's fine.
Yeah. I wonder if I just go for a redrawn coat. No, I don't recall coat playing a part in this game, so I guess I didn't. No, I just chose to redraw Batterskull. Yeah, I
Because you
probably
do
should just.
have Coat plus Snap Blast here.
Yeah. The other issue with playing coat is that at least, well, no, I could fetch to shuffle away the Batterskull. Yeah, that's true.
Great.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. At this point, I'm also kind of confused because he has 5 cards and he's not doing anything. Like he's not cantripping, he's not playing creatures, so I'm kind of thinking you have probably more than 1 force at this point. Maybe there's days rotting in your hand somewhere and like a couple of bolts, like and a blast of some kind somewhere.
Yeah, it's Counter Spells and Lightning Bolts is what's probably in their hand right now.
Yeah.
They don't need to clear Snapcaster. They're at 30.
So we just kind of do this whole. So I put back Batterskull under Stoneforge. I kind of figured he'd just force this Stoneforge, in which case I go to next turn, draw the next Stoneforge, and make him do it again. And then there's Batterskull underneath that.
I would have preferred leaving the mountain up and having up Snap Blast, because you can Snap Blast a Force of Will here, and then you get 2 cards if they force back. All of it plays around days.
Yeah, that's true. I guess at this point in the game, I was just kind of getting a little sloppy. I don't know. I don't know if that's normal,
Right.
but by like turn 18, I'm just kind of trying to figure out how to tread water sometimes.
it's not abnormal, but at this point of the game, you should be tightening up because this is where like you missequence once and a Murktide slips through and you're dead. Like these are the kinds of spots where, like you just said, your opponent's got 5 cards in hand, hasn't been doing anything. What could they have over there? They might be banking up a giant like Murktide backed by double force turn, and then you lose.
Yeah.
Just you can't afford to be sloppy at any point of the game, basically.
Yeah. I guess the other thought, well, I'm pretty sure I didn't think it, but looking at it now, the other thing is I have another Stone Forge. Like if he wants to tap 5 mana into 2, then like so be it, I guess. But yeah, I wasn't thinking at the time, so I don't get credit. Anyway.
And if you have another Stoneforge on top, just draw it next turn and cast them both. Like, why let your opponent hardcast 2 forces and get 1-for-1 exchanges?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, like you could have just waited a turn, cast both of these now. They tap out for force on this one, and then you just play the other one.
Yeah.
But instead, they got what they
So
wanted.
I think here I do what you were saying to do last turn.
Right, and it cost them 2 cards to fight it off.
Yeah.
That's what we were looking for.
And then now here's the batter skull, so I'm kind of thinking I've got 3 forces down. Like, all right, time to go.
Yeah, tough beat, but okay.
Yeah, it's kind of insane. It's like, okay, well, yeah. So it turns out he was holding 4 forces.
Right.
But
And
yeah, I mean,
like we
you
just
don't
had
get,
that conversation. Like what could be in this hand where they're not doing anything? It's counter spells and lightning bolts.
it wasn't even
And
lightning
then
bolts. Well, I guess you're about to find out, but so now he's down to 2 cards. So I'm thinking there's probably a red blaster bolt in there. Like at this point, like
good chance.
yeah,
Yep.
good chance. He's probably forced any dazes that he had. So yeah, that's where I'm at. I was a little shocked this Narset went through, because I kind of thought one of them would be a red blast, but whatever.
Yep.
And that, and then yeah, his last 2 cards are like days. So like I was kind of confused how it ended up in that situation. Like of all the cards you could have pitched to force on like turn 18, why wasn't it days? But yeah,
Sure.
it's a little weird.
Might have drawn the days the turn after that force was
He might
pitched,
have, and
but
then I think he just packed it up. But yeah,
yeah, I mean, still, when you ask yourself those idle questions of what could be in their hand, they're not doing anything, and we identified counter spells and/or lightning bolts, and it turned out the 5 cards and the next 2 were all just counter spells. And
yeah,
could we have played differently to respect the 4th force of will? And we've seen force of negation, so it could be that too. Either one answers Batter Skull cleanly. Maybe we're supposed to spend a turn brainstorming. I think what we talked about with that double Stone Forge turn, really overloading the forces, then you would have still had Snap Blast up when you went for Batter Skull. Like just finding those longer term lines rather than like, I'll use the Stone Forge as duress, and the next turn I'll do it again. Like use Stone Forge as duress, and then immediately pressure with the second Stone Forge on the same turn.
yeah. Okay.
Them getting one draw step in between is not going to change that for them.
All right. Otherwise, so I guess that's it for the replays. It's sort of maybe for like the last 10 minutes, I had a couple questions. We can just go lightning round. It's kind of a moot point since I feel like this is all going to change with modern. Is it modern? When's Modern Horizons 3 come out? That's in like what, 2 weeks or something? It hits
Yeah,
the
early
street.
June.
Yeah, so I don't know. For my next league, I had kind of forgotten that that was a thing. So I don't know what to submit to you because I feel like by the time I give this to you, even if we worked on it, whatever comes out the other end would be so like behind whatever it comes out in MH3 that I don't even know if it's worth it.
I mean, like I could just put in like deck TBD, and 6 weeks from now when it comes up, like you can send me a list anytime in there. You don't have to lock in the whole list today.
Yeah, so I mean, I'd like to deck doctor it, but I mean, just out of curiosity, is there anything that you would change? I wouldn't spend too much time on it since I'm probably gonna have to retool this completely in what, like 2 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about this before. I don't like back to basics. I
Yeah.
just don't think it's good enough to be a main deck card. And if your deck could support Blood Moon, I like Blood Moon better than back to basics.
Really? Oh
And
God, I'm gonna have to eat some crow. Okay.
uh, and it that shifts with the metagame, but like we saw in that Delver matchup, you drew back to basics and then you cast it, and then they easily pyroblasted it, and then the game continued like you never even cast that card.
Yeah.
And I wish it was literally any card out of your sideboard. Like, I don't know, Lavinia is at least a 2/2, and if they kill it, it's gone. But like, Back to Basics is and Blood Moon both are basically for exactly like land strategy, Cloud Post, the even the 4 color, 5 color beans decks. They all play Leyline Binding. They can find answers in the main deck to knock it out. I just don't think that effect is good enough to be a main deck slot.
Okay. And then post sticker ban, which I kind of didn't expect. Or is it still two blue blast the standard, or are we kind of like, or are people kind of like starting to shave back on those?
And Red Stompy is just a very easy heir apparent to the Throne of Goblins.
Yeah.
It was already like a top 10 deck while Goblins was a top 5 deck, and now it's just going to eat up all of those Goblins players probably. So, like, it's fine. And Blue
Okay.
Blast kills Dragon's Rage Channeler.
It's not like I
So,
hate it. So yeah. Okay.
yeah. Like, I mean, keep an eye on it. If you find you're not bringing it in that often, you could probably shave one for something else.
I mean, I
But,
play red decks a lot, but also it's like just because I play red decks a lot doesn't mean you want to burn a spot on blue blast if it's, if you don't really need it there. But yeah, if anything, I feel like the red blast is marginal. I've actually liked the one of Meticulous Archive too, more than I thought I would. Um,
yep.
it's a little clunky in some spots, but it's not the worst. Um, and then I guess for our last couple minutes, are you okay with discussing MH3 stuff that's been spoiled, or I have two cards I wanted to ask you about, but I'm not sure if the state of their spoiling, whether they were spoiled officially or like
So,
unofficially.
uh, I don't want to talk about leaks. I'm happy to talk about spoilers, like official spoilers. Um, I don't know which are which, and I honestly haven't looked at either really closely.
Oh, okay.
Uh, like, so I don't know how useful this is right now, given those things.
I
But
just want to take a temperature on like two cards that are in there because I kind of got lost whether these were like unofficially spoiled and then spoiled officially, or if they're still just unofficially spoiled. But whatever.
well, if they're on Scryfall, they've been officially spoiled. So what are
Uh,
the names?
the first one is the Tameo. Like It's one of the flip walkers. If you just I forget the name. It was one of the Tameos though.
I don't see a Tameo. Let
No.
me
So
see.
okay, and then Wrath of the Skies, or did I just roll a zero on this?
The Tameo.
No, it's not. Neither of them are here. Okay, so I
Uh,
guess they were both spoiled unofficially. So, all right, we can shelve that. I guess in so I guess as a question that I've been entertaining in my head, um, at least for Jeskai, it feels like Jeskai is kind of hanging. It used to be the strength of Jeskai was Red Blast, and
yeah,
now it's starting to feel like it's actually more on Meltdown. Um, I don't know how much you agree with that or not, but Red Blast has also not been great lately, or it's just felt kind of like whatever. Uh,
yeah. I mean, when the primary threat in the format is black. I
Black
guess
and
like
then
Murktide and Bowmaster and Grief and Troll.
yeah,
Among those, one of them is blastable, the other aren't. Like, yeah, Pyroblast used to be like one in the main, four more in the board kind of
or
thing,
or it
and
was
now
a
it's
pretty
like
easy like you just put three of those in your sideboard and then you figure out what your other 12 are, kind of thing.
right, right. Yeah, I think like two is probably good. One might be good, depending on your metagame. But yeah, that card is kind of at a low because black cards are what we actually need to answer in the format.
So without talking directly about spoilers, I guess a thing that where I'm at in my head is I think one of those cards might actually just be a replacement for Meltdown, and it's not red. So I'm kind of left with this Jeskai deck that's Jeskai for like 2 red blasts, which I'm like eh on.
Yeah, I mean,
I
uh,
I guess without like seeing the card, it's like we're just having too tangential a conversation. But I guess part of me is like maybe I just go back to like blue white. Um,
yeah, blue white has great mana. If there is some meltdown adjacent replacement that you don't need a splash red for, if you're not playing Blood Moon, if you're not playing fourth Aerlingus, then you could just decide what a couple of red blasts are worth in your sideboard if that's worth
yeah,
the Volcanic Islands.
because the downside of me doing that is that I think the biggest one is that prismatic ending just falls off a cliff. Like it's okay as a one or two, but you'll always have this like, what do I do for this 3 drop?
I would not play Prismatic Ending in a deck that can't make 3 colors.
Oh, at all? Like not even to just. I mean, it's still
No,
pretty efficient at answering ones and twos.
no, I've tried it and it's just always so bad. Like honestly, like even having a third color in your deck, even if you're like blue white with 2 Pyroblasts in the sideboard, having access to red in the main to answer 3 drops with ending
Yeah.
is I consider that enough of a splash. But then you could decide if that's better than like being Esper or Bant because it's so small anyway, and ending doesn't care what the splash is. But
Yeah.
no, I would not play that card
Just
if it
last
can't answer a
question,
three
because
drop.
I know we're out of time. But gun to your head. You can only play blue white. Past the 4 Swords to Plowshares, if you had to play 2 to 3 more removal spells, what would they be?
I have used March of Otherworldly Light, which you're already on a bit. Um, I think that like depending on what kind of answer you're looking for, Brazen Borrower does a lot. Um, that's it depends on the context, but
Yeah.
March of Otherworldly Light's probably next in line after Swords to Plowshares if I can't support Prismatic Ending.
Okay.
Solitude, if you're looking for creature removal, I like a lot. Um, Even in decks without beans, just like 1 or 2 at the top
Okay.
is a pretty powerful thing to look for.
All right. I guess I would lean more towards March because I do like the flexibility of ending to take out most things, and March only missing on Planeswalkers matters a lot less than it used to. But yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. All right. Hey, then thanks so much for your time. Well, I'll schedule the next one. I'll probably get back to you with a list whenever MH3 officially comes out and we can talk then.
sounds
But
good.
yeah. All right. Hey, thanks for the
All
chunk of
right,
time.
absolutely. See
Okay.
ya.
See ya.